You've been on several podcasts, Joe Rogan, Sam Harris, Rich Roll, others, excellent conversations. But I think there's several topics that you didn't talk about that I think are fascinating that I'd love to talk to you about. Sort of machine learning, artificial intelligence, both the narrow kind and the general kind, and engineering at scale. So there's a lot of incredible engineering going on that you're a part of. Cryptocurrency, blockchain, UBI, all kinds of philosophical questions maybe we'll get to about life and death and meaning and beauty. So you're involved in building some of the biggest network systems in the world, sort of trillions of interactions a day. The cool thing about that is the infrastructure, the engineering at scale. You started as a programmer with C,
A hacker.
building. Yeah, so
I'm a hacker. I'm not really an engineer.
not a legit software engineer. You're
Not
a
legit.
hacker at heart. But
Yeah.
to achieve scale, you have to do some, unfortunately, legit large scale engineering. So how do you make that magic happen?
Hire people that I can learn from, number one. I mean, I'm a hacker in the sense that my approach has always been do whatever it takes to make it work, so that I can see and feel the thing and then learn what needs to come next. And oftentimes what needs to come next is a matter of being able to bring it to more people, which is scale. And there's a lot of great people out there that either have experience or are extremely fast learners that we've been lucky enough to find and work with for years. But I think a lot of it, we benefit a ton from the open source community and just all the learnings there that are laid bare in the open, all the mistakes, all the success, all the problems. It's a very slow moving process, usually open source, but it's very deliberate. And you get to see, because of the pace, you get to see what it takes to really build something meaningful. So I learned most of everything I learned about hacking and programming and engineering has been due to open source and the generosity that people have given to give up their time, sacrifice their time without any expectation in return, other than being a part of something much larger than themselves, which I think is great.
The open source movement is amazing. But if you just look at the scale, like Square has to take care of, is this fundamentally a software problem or hardware problem? You mentioned hiring a bunch of people, but so it's not, maybe from my perspective, not often talked about how incredible that is to sort of have a system that doesn't go down often, that is secure, is able to take care of all these transactions. Like maybe I'm also a hacker at heart, and it's incredible to me that that kind of scale could be achieved. Is there some insight, some lessons, some interesting tidbits that you can say about how to make that scale happen? Is it the hardware fundamentally challenge? Is it a software challenge? Is it is it a social challenge of building large teams of engineers that work together, that kind of thing? Like what's the interesting challenges there?
By the way, you're the best dressed hacker I've met. I think
Thank you, by the way. Thank you.
Of the enumeration you just went through, I don't think there's one. You have to kind of focus on all, and the ability to focus on all that really comes down to how you face problems and whether you can break them down into parts that you can focus on. Because I think the biggest mistake is trying to solve or address too many at once, or not going deep enough with the questions, or not being critical of the answers you find, or not taking the time to form credible hypotheses that you can actually test and you can see the results of. So all of those fall in the face of ultimately critical thinking skills, problem solving skills. And if there's one skill I want to improve every day, it's that. That's what contributes to learning. And the only way we can evolve any of these things is learning what it's currently doing and how to take it to the next step.
And questioning assumptions, the first principles kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Seems like
Yeah.
fundamental to this whole process.
Yeah, but if you get too overextended into, well, this is a hardware issue, you miss all the software solutions. And, vice versa, if you focus too much on the software, there are hardware solutions that can 10x a thing. So I try to resist the categories of thinking and look for the underlying systems that make all these things work. But those only emerge when you have a skill around creative thinking, problem solving, and being able to ask critical questions and having the patience to like go deep.
So one of the amazing things, if we look at the mission of Square, is to increase people's access to the economy. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. That's from my perspective. So from the perspective of merchants, peer-to-peer payments, even cryptocurrency, digital cryptocurrency, what do you see as the major ways our society can increase participation in the economy? So if we look at today, in the next 10 years, next 20 years, you go into Africa, maybe in Africa and all kinds of other places outside of North America.
If there was one word that I think represents what we're trying to do at Square, it is that word access. One of the things we found is that we weren't expecting this at all. When we started, we thought we were just building a piece of hardware to enable people to plug it into their phone and swipe a credit card. And then as we talked with people who actually tried to accept credit cards in the past, we found a consistent theme, which many of them weren't even not enabled, but allowed to process credit cards. And we dug a little bit deeper, again, asking that question. And we found that a lot of them would go to banks or these merchant acquirers, and waiting for them was a credit check and looking at a FICO score. And many of the businesses that we talked to, and many small businesses, they don't have good credit or a credit history. They're entrepreneurs who are just getting started, taking a lot of personal risk, financial risk. And it just felt ridiculous to us that for the job of being able to accept money from people, you had to get your credit checked. And as we dug deeper, we realized that wasn't the intention of the financial industry, but it's the only tool they had available to them to understand authenticity, intent, predictor of future behavior. So that's the first thing we actually looked at. And that's where we built the hardware, but the software really came in terms of risk modeling. And that's when we started down the path that eventually leads to AI. We started with a very strong data science discipline because we knew that our business was not necessarily about making hardware. It was more about enabling more people to come into the system.
So the fundamental challenge there is, so to enable more people to come into the system, you have to lower the barrier of checking that person will be a legitimate vendor. Is that the fundamental problem here?
Yeah, and a different mindset. I think a lot of the financial industry had a mindset of distrust and just constantly looking for opportunities to prove why people shouldn't get into the system. Whereas we took on a mindset of trust and then verify.
Yes.
So we moved, when we entered the space, only about 30 to 40% of the people who applied to accept credit cards would actually get through the system. We took that number to 99%. And that's because we reframed the problem. We built credible models. And we had this mindset of, we're going to watch not at the merchant level, but we're going to watch at the transaction level. So come in, perform some transactions. And as long as you're doing things that feel high integrity, credible, and don't look suspicious, we'll continue to serve you. If we see any interestingness in how you use our system, that will be bubbled up to people to review to figure out if there's something nefarious going on, and that's when we might ask you to leave. So the change in the mindset led to the technology that we needed to enable more people to get through and to enable more people to access the system.
What role does machine learning play into that in that context of you said, first of all, that's a beautiful shift. Anytime you shift your viewpoint into seeing that people are fundamentally good and then you just have to verify and catch the ones who are not, as opposed to assuming everybody's bad, this is a beautiful thing. So what role does to you throughout the history of the company has machine learning played in doing that verification?
It was immediate. I mean, we weren't calling it machine learning, but it was data science. And then as the industry evolved, machine learning became more of the nomenclature, and as that evolved, it became more sophisticated with deep learning. And as that continues to evolve, it'll be another thing. But they're all in the same vein. But we built that discipline up within the first year of the company, because we also had, we had to partner with a bank, we had to partner with Visa and MasterCard, and we had to show that by bringing more people into the system, that we could do so in a responsible way that would not compromise their systems and that they would trust us.
How do you convince that this upstart company with some cool machine learning tricks is able to deliver on the sort of a trustworthy set of merchants?
We staged it out in tiers. We had a bucket of 500 people using it, and then we showed results, and then 1,000, and then 10,000, then 50,000, and then the constraint was lifted. So again, it's kind of getting something tangible out there. I want to show what we can do rather than talk about it, and that put a lot of pressure on us to do the right things. And it also created a culture of accountability, of a little bit more transparency, and I think incentivized all of our early folks and the company in the right way.